Hi, welcome back to the channel and another video today. I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on Heretic, which is this brand new horror movie that's just been released here by A24. And I've been kind of intrigued about this movie because it's had some really good early reviews from the festivals and the press screenings, all that sort of stuff. And I've been loving seeing what Hugh Grant is doing with his career at the moment, kind of having this transition from being the young, good-looking, smooth-talking guy to playing these much more sinister, creepier roles with his older age, and he's been doing an amazing job of it. So I was definitely interested to see what he was going to be about in this. And I do also typically love projects from A24, especially in horror. But it's from directors, Scott Beck and Brian Woods, and these are the guys that directed Haunt. And Haunt was a horror movie that came out a few years ago, which I thought was rubbish, to be honest. I didn't enjoy that movie at all. And I've just been a bit burnt out on all these kind of religious, spiritual type horror movies, Exorcist stuff, nun horror movies. We've just had endless amounts of movies in this subgenre, and I've just been getting a little bit fatigued by them. So I wasn't going to rush out to see this, but I did manage to go and catch a late showing of this last night, and I'm really glad I did, because the early reviews are absolutely right. This is a really interesting, really intriguing new horror movie. And it's very unique as well, and definitely one that I'm happy I went to go and see. I spoke about this recently when I saw The Substance, which was another one just really out there, really different, took me by surprise, and a real breath of fresh air, and it's no different here with Heretic. Just a really good time for horror at the moment, a couple of really nice releases. So if you're up for something different, you can't go wrong with Heretic. So getting into a bit of plot here, you're following these two young Mormon girls who are out doing their preaching, spreading the word of God, going to the various houses in their local community, and they reach out and visit Hugh Grant's character, who is living out in this big isolated house, apparently because he's someone that put his name down as somebody who was interested at potentially being converted to the religion. So they go round to see him. He manages to convince them to come into his house, and they kind of entertain this situation until things start to get more awkward, more unusual, and start to become a little bit threatening, and then they realise they can't leave, and the movie basically goes off the rails from there. So I'm going to keep this review spoiler free. It's another one of those films where it's very difficult to talk about all of the interesting stuff with this movie without getting into spoilers. So I'm going to keep my thoughts fairly vague and just give you an outline of and a feel for what I liked about the movie. But definitely another one to see blind. Go in, don't read too much about it. Thankfully, the trailers didn't give too much away. So go in knowing as little as possible. One thing I will say about the trailer actually is, even though I was happy it didn't give much away, it also didn't really do a good job of selling the movie, because this is a film that has a lot more to offer than is seen in the trailer. It goes in some very weird, unique directions, very dark directions that are a little bit unexpected, and it doesn't really sell that by the trailer. So even if you are like me and were a little bit kind of not sure about this one, I really do think it's worth giving this one a go. The main movie that comes to mind in my comparisons would be something like Barbarian, another one where I went in like I have no idea what to expect here and was really surprised by the experience. It's very much the same here with Heretic. Now, the one thing I think will potentially put some people off about this movie is, of course, you're following these Mormon characters. You get this guy that invites them in. If you've seen the trailer, it's to do with conversations about faith versus atheism, different belief systems, how are they compatible, all this kind of stuff. And it delves a lot more into that discussion than I thought it would. And I do think this will be off-putting to some people. Because, I find with a lot of people, they either are uncomfortable discussing these kind of things, or just they find it tedious, kind of debating religion and all this kind of stuff. And if you're one of those people, I think this movie won't be for you. It's very wordy, and a lot of it is going in depth with these kind of debates. I just happen to be somebody that actually quite enjoys these kind of discussions. Especially back when I was in my early 20s, over drinks with my friends, we would talk about this stuff all the time. I've always found it interesting, so I was happy to go along and found it quite engaging. But I can understand why some people are not really going to enjoy that side of it, but it definitely goes into that much deeper than I thought. Now, the movie's not It's not as profound, perhaps, as maybe it thinks it is. It's not quite as clever as I think perhaps it's trying to be. But it definitely does get you thinking. There's some interesting food for thought here. And just because of how good Hugh Grant's performance is, his delivery of this, and how he kind of lures in this character with his charm, even though you can tell there's something sinister about him, something about the whole interaction just makes it very gripping to watch. And yeah, he does an amazing job with the film, and I think even though this is actually, it's very, very dark, it goes in some pretty crazy directions, especially in the final hour. But he just has a way of keeping it tonally quite light at the same time. Like, he's really funny as well, just because of his quirks and strangeness, just make it quite funny. So the movie does find quite a nice balance between these two, so you don't end up just feeling like you've been hit by a bus at the end of the experience. So even for seeing it for Hugh Grant alone, this is worth it. But yeah, so it's a unique film, but definitely be prepared for the long, exhausting conversations about, faith, religion, belief, God, all of that kind of stuff, because there's a ton of that stuff in here. Now, the second half of the movie I can't really go into detail with, just because that's the where all of the kind of surprises come, where you find out about this Hugh Grant character, what he's really up to, why he's lured this woman into his house, and how it goes in there. But yeah, it was one of those movies where I was constantly wondering where it was going to go to next, and it's unpredictable with how dark it really goes. I was kind of surprised by some of it, and I enjoyed the experience for that. It was entertaining. In the same way that Barbarian was, you kind of that Airbnb the girl turns up at, where you're just like, where is this thing going? This movie has very much the same feel as that, which I really enjoyed. Now, as for negatives, I actually don't have too much to say, because for the most part I really enjoyed the experience of this film. I do just think that maybe there are some moments towards the end, especially in that final half an hour, which does stretch believability maybe to a level that I thought was just too far. I get it, it's a horror film, you do get these kind of moments, and already the context of this film and what it's asking you to go along with is quite a lot. But there are even moments within that where I was just like, come on now, this is a bit much to take here. So there's little moments like that, some of the usual pitfalls you get with these kind of horror films. But I do also think as well, the main negative about the film was, whilst these two characters were interesting, good actresses, I liked the performances and whatnot, but there's moments at the end, being careful here not to spoil anything, but where one of the characters basically comes to a number of conclusions about what's going on, why this is all happening to them, what Hugh Grant's character is really about, what he's up to. And I had a hard time kind of buying the fact that she had managed to come to all of these conclusions on her own, just because I'm like, if you were this smart, this insightful, this aware of your situation, what's going on, how did you even get anywhere near where you are right now? They come in playing these kind of very sort of innocent Mormon girls. They don't realise early on that they're clearly being messed with by this guy, which is very obvious to the audience. They don't pick this up from this character. So it's like when she suddenly kind of comes to all of these conclusions at the end, it kind of was like, whoa, this feels a bit out of character to me, felt a little bit unnatural. So I had a bit of a hard time buying that. But other than that, to be honest, I really, really quite enjoyed this movie. And I thought it was quite interesting anyway. So for me personally, it worked. But it won't be for everyone, that's for sure. But anyway, I'm going to give this one a 3.5 out of 5 rating. Please do let me know down in the comments what you thought of Heretic, if you've managed to see it already. Leave me all your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. Do take care, and I'll see you next time.